Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into an era that utterly reshaped America. We're talking about the market revolution.
hmm
This wasn't just, a slight adjustment. It was a fundamental overhaul. How people lived, worked, connected, everything.
Absolutely. Really changed the fabric of society.
So our mission on this deep dive, we want to unpack how America went from being like a bunch of separate local economies
Right. Very fragmented.
to this truly interconnected, market-driven system. We'll dig into the key innovations and hopefully find some surprising facts, those aha moments that give you a real shortcut to understanding its impact.
And that impact, it really does echo even today. The key thing to grasp up front is that this market revolution, it wasn't just about economics.
Not just money changing hands.
Exactly. It was a
It's a little
complete societal overhaul. At its heart, it was about linking northern industries with western and southern farms.
Okay.
And this connection, it was forged by really rapid advances in farming and industry and, crucially, transportation. This process basically knitted together these different regional sectors into one single economic entity. It was a decisive shift away from, just growing enough to survive.
Subsistence farming.
Right, subsistence farming and very local trade towards a commercial, market-driven system. Big change.
That sounds like a massive undertaking, trying to knit together a whole continent like that.
Mm.
So, okay, what actually fueled this? What were the mechanisms?
Well, you can really break it down into three main drivers. Think of them like three powerful engines propelling this transformation.
Okay, three engines. What are they?
Transportation networks, industrial technology, and agricultural innovations.
Yeah.
Each one was pretty revolutionary on its own.
Right.
But crucially, they all interacted. They sort of fed off each other, creating this powerful cycle of change.
Okay, I could see how those would link up. Let's start with that first one then. Transportation. Why was that so critical? What were the challenges before?
Well, before this era, moving goods was just incredibly slow and expensive,
Yeah, I bet.
and often unreliable. Imagine trying to haul bulky raw materials or even finished products long distances over rough roads, or worse, upstream against river currents.
Oof. Yeah, hard work.
Exactly. Without efficient ways to get materials to factories and then get products to markets, this whole idea of mass production just wouldn't work.
It stalls out.
It grinds to a halt. So there was this huge, pressing need for better infrastructure. And that need really spurred some amazing developments.
So building this infrastructure, where did they even start? Literally laying the groundwork.
Pretty much, yeah. Early efforts were quite ambitious. Think of the National Road.
Also called the Cumberland Road.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It eventually stretched all the way from Maryland out to Illinois.
Yeah.
A real symbol of trying to link these distant, previously isolated regions.
Wow.
But roads, they had limitations. Good for people, maybe smaller loads. But imagine moving tons of grain by wagon across states. The cost, the time.
Incredibly inefficient, yeah. Especially if you want a big economy. So roads weren't enough for the sheer volume of stuff. What was next? Water, I guess.
Absolutely. Water was key. And that's where canals come in. The Erie Canal, finished in 1825, was just a marvel.
Well, that's the famous one.
It really is. It connected the Great Lakes all the way to the Hudson River. So boom, you've linked the Midwest to New York City.
And the impact was?
Dramatic. Before the canal, shipping a ton of goods from, say, Buffalo to New York City might cost over $100. Took weeks.
Okay.
After the canal, that cost dropped to maybe $10, and the trip took days.
Just like that. That's transformative.
Totally transformative.
Yep.
It basically redrew the economic map, made New York the commercial powerhouse, and tied the Northeast and Midwest economies together super tightly.
Incredible. But what about rivers? You mentioned going upstream was tough. Did anything change that?
Yes, the steamboat. That was the game changer for rivers. Steam power meant you could travel both ways reliably.
Yeah, against the current.
Exactly. So goods go downstream,
Yeah.
fine. But now, raw materials could come back upstream efficiently.
Okay.
This turned rivers like the Mississippi and the Ohio into these bustling two-way commercial highways. Opened up the interior in a huge way.
So canals, steamboats, massive improvements. But technology keeps moving, right? What eventually started to take over?
Railroads. By the 1820s, 1830s, railroads were rapidly emerging, and they pretty quickly surpassed canals as the main tech for linking regions.
Faster, more direct routes.
Both. And they weren't as dependent on water levels or weather. Their expansion was just breathtaking, often helped by state and local governments offering loans, tax breaks,
Incentives.
right, land grants too. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, started in 28, was a real pioneer. It symbolized this new era of speed. Railroads could go places canals couldn't dream of.
A nation in motion, literally. Okay, so the transport piece is huge, but you said there were other engines. What about making things? How did that change?
Right, the second engine, industrial technology. This wasn't just about moving things faster. It was about making them in entirely new ways. And it really kicks off with people like Samuel Slater.
The father of the American factory system.
That's him. He basically smuggled British textile machine designs over to America, set up the first water-powered spinning mill in Rhode Island back in 1790.
Wow, industrial espionage?
Pretty much. It wasn't just building a mill, it was the spark, the real start of the U.S. Industrial Revolution.
Okay, and then there's Eli Whitney. We think cotton gin, but he did something else huge for industry, right?
Spot on. His other massive contribution was interchangeable parts.
Explain that. What was the big deal?
Okay, think about it. Before Whitney, if a part broke on your musket, say, that part was probably handmade, unique to that gun.
Right, fitted by an artisan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Replacing it meant finding a skilled craftsman to make a new one from scratch. Slow, expensive, maybe the gun's just useless.
Okay, I see.
Whitney's idea was, what if you machine every piece precisely, in bulk, so they're all identical? Then less skilled workers can just assemble them.
Ah, like building blocks.
Kind of. It meant mass production was possible, goods became cheaper, more available, and repairs so much easier. Just swap in a new standard part.
That's a fundamental shift in thinking about manufacturing. And this fed into the factory system that emerged in the 1820s.
Absolutely. The factory system took that idea, precision parts, assembly, and scaled it way up. Workers, often less skilled, assembling standardized parts, shipping finished goods out to markets near and far.
And wasn't there a specific system, the Lowell system? What was unique there?
Yeah, the Lowell system in Massachusetts was pretty unique. It heavily relied on young, unmarried women, the Lowell Mill girls, for labor in textile factories.
Right, I've heard of them.
What was different was that it was often a planned town. It combined the living quarters and the work sites, a big step towards wage labor, centralized manufacturing. And it helped the U.S. textile industry compete directly with Britain.
Okay, so we've got revolution in movement, revolution in making. But what about the farms? You mentioned agriculture as the third engine. How did it change from just feeding your family?
That's the critical shift. From subsistence farming, just enough to survive, to commercial production. Farmers started growing crops specifically for sale, aiming for profit in markets that were getting further and further away thanks to those new transportation networks.
Makes sense. And innovation played a role here too, like the cotton gin.
Oh, absolutely key. Whitney's cotton gin, 1793, its impact on the South was just monumental.
Yeah, so?
Well, separating cotton seeds from the fiber was incredibly slow, hard work. The gin automated that, sped it up dramatically.
So more cotton could be processed.
Vastly more. It transformed Southern agriculture, made large-scale cotton production feasible and incredibly profitable. But, and this is the tragic side,
Yeah.
this boom in cotton created an almost insatiable demand for labor to plant and pick it. So instead of reducing the need for enslaved people, it massively expanded and entrenched slavery across the South.
Wow. A single invention with such profound and devastating consequences.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, up in the Midwest, farmers had a different issue, that tough prairie soil.
Hard to plow.
Very hard with the old plows. That's where John Deere's steel plow from 1837 came in. It sliced through that dense soil much more easily.
Okay.
This was huge for opening up the Midwest. It encouraged settlement, made large-scale commercial farming viable there, and really solidified the Midwest as the nation's grain belt.
So you can grow more grain, but then you have to harvest it all. Another bottleneck.
Exactly. And Cyrus McCormick's mechanical reaper from the 1830s tackled that. It let farmers harvest grain much, much faster with way less manual labor.
Increasing output again.
Dramatically. More grain, grown more efficiently. It also meant fewer workers were needed on farms overall, which kind of pushed people toward the cities for factory jobs. It cemented that shift. Commercial farming, cash crops for trade, replacing the old subsistence ways.
Okay, so we've got these three huge engines firing. Transport, industry, agriculture. How did they all, connect? How did they forge that single national economy you mentioned?
All right, this is the grand unification part. All these changes led to this incredible increase in economic interconnectedness between the regions. And importantly, growing ties internationally, too.
So give me an example, like North and the Midwest.
Perfect example. Those canals, like the Erie and then the railroads, they physically link the North and Midwest. The Midwest became the breadbasket, growing grain.
To feed the factory workers and city dwellers in the North?
Exactly. And the North sent manufactured goods back west. A clear economic exchange, a dependency.
And North and South. What was the big link there?
Cotton, immensely powerful link. Southern plantations, using enslaved labor, produced enormous amounts of cotton.
Which fed the textile mills in the North.
Precisely. But it wasn't just the mills. Northern banks financed the cotton crop. Northern ships transported it. Northern insurance companies insured it. The whole northern economy became deeply entangled with southern cotton.
So a really complex interdependence.
Very complex.
Yeah.
And often fraught with tension, obviously.
But it wasn't just an internal U.S. thing, right? You mentioned international ties.
Definitely.
Right.
Cotton exports were massive. They plugged the U.S. firmly into the global economy, especially Britain. British textile factories desperately needed that American cotton.
So U.S. cotton became a cornerstone of global trade.
A huge cornerstone,
Mhm.
which, again, created its own set of dependencies and geopolitical issues.
Yeah.
This reliance on global markets, on a single crop tied to slavery.
Mm.
It shaped America's path in profound ways.
Wow. It really is an incredible story, taking the country from these sort of scattered local economies to this dynamic, interconnected system, all powered by innovation across so many areas. This deep dive has really helped sort of distill those complex changes.
Yeah, and these shifts we've talked about and how things were made, how they were moved, how they were traded, they really laid the foundation for so much of the modern economy we see today. It was, in many ways, the birth of modern America.
Really fascinating stuff. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the market revolution.
My pleasure.
And for you listening. As you think about that huge shift from handmade to mass production, local to global cutlery, maybe consider what looks like a revolution in today's economy. Maybe it's something we take for granted now, like, I don't know, instant global delivery or AI-driven production. Could those things be reshaping our lives as profoundly as the cotton gin or the Erie Canal did back then? Something to ponder until next time.